Do you like my hair? It's so high I can barely fit it in the frame there. Very 1980s, circa Depeche Mode. So in today's video, I'm going to show you guys how I photograph moonscapes. But before we head on this epic journey west, I've got to sort out the big rig. This is its first trip out this year, so I've got to de-winterize it and get it ready for a nice, comfortable road trip. Oh, can I just take a second to show you my bell? I'm really quite proud of my massive bell. Right, let's fill up this water tank.
After months of being sat in the backyard, it was time to reawaken the Bigfoot.
Ah, the camper. How I've missed this. Looks to be in pretty good shape, no leaks or nasty surprises. And look at this, the Jackery, let me show you this. This has been sitting here for 5 months, still 99%. Bloody brilliant. Not sponsored, if you're watching, Jackery, get in touch. How's my hair look? Ah, cosy times await. All right, it's full, so we can shut off the water, turn on the water pump. Right, now that the lines are charged, let's purge all of the antifreeze. That's coming out clean now.
With a full water tank, we were finally ready to go and do some nighttime landscape photography. I just had to put the stairs up and we were off.
All ready to go.
That's a nice jacket. Where'd you get that?
My mum made it for me.
Oh, brilliant. Can she make me one?
You could ask her.
She'll probably just use that as an excuse to tell me how fat I am.
Ah, the rattle and hum of the Hardcastle Hilton. Adventure awaits, but first...
I fancy a bit of lunch, love. Do you want to get something to eat?
Yeah, I'm always hungry.
Let's try that new Waffle Shack, eh? Not to be confused with Waffle House in the States. Atrocious is that, but this is a new spot, so let's give it a shot, eh?
Now you know the food's alright if the menu is handwritten ghetto style. Crispy chicken and waffles with a vanilla milkshake. The milkshake was divine, but even though I was well on my way to a self-induced heart attack, Amanda needed help with her fries.
Hey!
What's hers is mine.
Stop it!
After a few hours on the road, we finally arrived at our destination.
So you might remember this beautiful sea stack from that video that I did last year. Got a gorgeous sunrise shot. Here's that shot. And I'll put a link to the video up here, just in case you want to watch that, and in the description. But what I'm thinking is, see, the problem that I want to do a moonscape or a Milky Way shot. And where I am right now, I'm looking southeast right now. Well, the moon's over there, so I think in about 4 or 5 hours, it's probably going to be right over the top of that. And what I'm thinking is it'd be better if it was over to the side, hitting it from the side. So I don't know if it's going to work with that particular sea stack, but there's another one just around the corner. So we're going to have a look at this one, and this one's got a hole in it. I do like me a sea stack with an arch, and I think this one looks a little bit more east. So it could be absolutely perfect for both Milky Way and a moonscape. We shall see. So this is fantastic. I mean, not only is it a really cool sea stack, but it's got that arch in it. I mean, that is fantastic. So if I situate myself here, I believe that is southeast, because the sun's about to set there in the west, which would make that south and that southeast. If my estimations are slightly off, I'd probably have to go a bit further around here to get towards southeast. And it would be a shame if I lost the arch by being forced to come all the way around here, but I think it'll still look pretty good even if I have to do that. But the low tide is at 4:30 a.m. So I reckon I should be able to get out here about 2:30 a.m. You know, once it's gone out a little bit, I should be able to get here. And then if the moon is not in position, if it's way over there and I've blown that shot, well then the Milky Way should be just perfect. And then if the moon does drop down the horizon, then the Milky Way will be nice and bright, but you'll hardly be able to see it while that moon is up. So there's lots of possibilities. I think something's going to work.
Now I know this will sound pretty obvious, but it's important to study your main subject from all angles so that you know where to be when the good light happens. So with a couple of hours to kill before sunset, we headed back to the camper for some disgusting snacks.
You be careful going down there in the dark.
I will. We got some hot stuff here in this camper. We got some tonkatsu, ramen, noodles. What are you having?
Lentil soup.
Oh, look at that. You got to put it in me splatter bowl. That's good, eh?
Oh, is that it?
I don't like soggy ramen. What's wrong with your lentil soup?
Well, I would way rather have these noodles you're about to eat.
But what would happen if you did?
You know, explosive diarrhea.
You know, this is the ultimate luxuries. Camping where you're about to shoot, you know. All I've got to do is stagger down that dangerous cliff face in the complete dark. And I'm at my shoot, you know. So that's pretty good, is that? Are you going to come down with me?
All signs point to no. But you be careful, because that was sketchy coming back up it.
I think I'm going to go down first with no tripods, just my camera bag. Put my camera bag at the bottom, then come back up for my tripods, because it's the tripods that you catch on stuff. And is there anything more delightful than watching someone ram noodles down their gob? It's so attractive.
So attractive.
Yeah? Right, it's 8:30 p.m. and we're in bed. Because there's no else to do, waiting for the Milky Way and the moon to move, so I'm going to get up at 2. I'm going to set my alarm for 2.
Whoa.
Are you getting up with me?
There's no heat, so I doubt it.
Yeah, the good news is that the furnace doesn't work. So that's a repair that we'll have to deal with. Oh, that's great, isn't it? So you staying in bed then?
Yeah, I plan on it.
So don't you want to come down the beach with me though and look at that sea stack in pitch darkness?
Well, I saw it today in the light and it was nice. I'll see the magic in the picture.
All right, good night, love.
Good night.
Well, it's 2:15 a.m. I've had, I think, 45 minutes of sleep. And I do have a face like a weightlifter's tent. And I'm not that happy, to be quite honest with you, because the moon is way on the other side of the horizon. So I don't know if that moonscape idea is going to work. But I'm going to warm up and then just head out on the beach anyway, because the tide's gone back out. And just see if I can find something with the conditions that I've got right now. Alright, so I've climbed down onto the beach and I framed up a couple of little test shots with the Hasselblad. If you look behind me, you could just see that sea stack with the moon. I wouldn't say setting, it's just passing through the sky. You can see the moon just behind that sea stack, and it's creating a nice sort of backlit halo effect on the top of the stack. So I've set up a test shot with the Hasselblad, and I've done a range of different exposure times, ranging from like 4 or 5 seconds right through to 4 minutes. So we'll see what this 4-minute exposure does. But this is just, you know, just to see what's going on in the sky, really. And then I'll head over to that other sea stack here. But, you know, it's just a test shot. But if this turns out to be any good, here's a shot.
Edited this image entirely in Luminar Neo because it has a tool that you will not find in Photoshop. Okay, so here we are in Luminar Neo, and this is the raw file from the Hasselblad, and I've edited it entirely in Luminar Neo, and you can see the 4 edits that I've done up here in the top right, kind of stacked on top of one another. And the first one is noiseless raw, so obviously this is noise reduction. So let's zoom in and take a look. Okay, so that is with the 1-click noise reduction applied. If I switch it off, you can see that's how the raw file came straight out of the camera, and with just that 1-click noise reduction, it's really cleaned that up. And if I zoom out all the way, you really can't see any noise at all. So now let's collapse that, and then we'll go to the next one, which is the develop tab. And if I switch that off, you can see this is how the image came out of the camera, and this is with just a few tweaks. Really all I've done is I've just cranked the shadows. That's how it started. I've just cranked them all the way up there, and I've also increased the exposure a little bit just to round about there. Now we'll collapse that and we'll go into the next one. This is the one that I really wanted to show you because this is something you will not find in Photoshop. So you see this magic light has added this, well, people usually call them a sun star. Let's call it a Moonstar in this case. And I did try to get a Moonstar in camera, but I was shooting at f8, and really to get a star like this you need to be at about f16 or f22, but I really would have lost far too much light and sharpness if I'd done that. So I figured I would just stick shooting at f8 and then add this in afterwards in Luminar Neo. What I love about this Magic Light AI tool is that once you switch this on, it's going to automatically detect the light source. In this case, it's obviously the moon, and it'll place the star right where it needs to be. And then you've got these sliders so that you can refine it to get it to look the way that you want it to look. So one of the things that I really like is the rotation slider. So you can position what would be, you know, light caused by aperture blades. You can position it so that it works better with your composition. And then you've got obvious things like brightness and clearness, or you could add a glow to it, kind of like that. I like to keep it nice and clean and relatively simple. You could change the number of beams, but I think that I had it pretty good around about 15. So now we'll collapse that, and then the last thing that I did was just a little bit of dodging and burning. If I switch that off and then put it back on again, you'll see that I sort of brushed in some highlights to lighten this area of moonlight hitting the rocks on either side of the sea stack, just there and over there. And then if you look at the sky area there, what I did is I just brushed in a little bit of a darker area. If I switch this off, you'll see that I've kind of added a bit of a vignette there by making it slightly darker in the top and the corners of the frame. So let me show you how I dodge and burn using Luminar Neo. So I'm going to keep my amount at 100% for now. What I want to do is lighten these areas of moonlight here. So I'm going to go brush control, lighten. My brush size, I'm going to stick with something like that. And the softness, I can change afterwards, but I'll start with a fairly soft edged brush, and I'll bring the strength up to about there. Now this is probably going to be really excessive, but I just want to see the effect working. So I just click, hold down my mouse, and I'm just brushing in that area of moonlight now. And I'll do the same on the other side of the sea stack here. So as you can see, that's probably a bit excessive, but what I can do now is just turn the opacity down a little bit by changing the amount. And if I switch that off, you'll see it's gone completely. Bring it back on and you can see the effect applied. So maybe I'll go a little bit less with that, and that's just about perfect. Now what I want to do is get a bit of a vignette in the sky there, make that a bit more punchy and dark. So now I'm going to go to darken, and again I'm going to get the size of my brush a bit bigger this time. I'm going to get a very soft edged brush, and the strength we'll have at about 50, and we'll keep the amount about 58 there. If it's too much, we'll we'll change that afterwards. Actually, I'll get a bigger brush. Let's get it right up here. So now I'm brushing in this area to make that sky quite a lot darker. And as you can see, that's a bit heavy-handed. So let's turn down the amount and just see how that looks. We'll switch it off and then on, off and then on. Maybe turn it down a little bit more, and I think that's pretty good. Off and then on. Yeah, I'm quite happy with that. So that's just one of the ways that I use Luminar Neo, and if you're interested in picking up a copy, there's a link in the description below.
All is perhaps not lost. The clouds are quite interesting, so I think there's a good chance there might be a nice sunrise, but that's a good hour and a half away. So I'm going to hike back to the camper, have some breakfast, a coffee and a plop, and then I'm going to keep an eye on the sunrise, and if it's good, I'm coming right back here.
Filming B-roll left-handed results in clumsiness like this, but I was trying not to wake up Amanda, so I gobbled my Paupers breakfast and got back down to the beach for sunrise, just in the nick of time.
Now, I'm sure you guys already know this. I'm probably preaching to the choir, but if you don't know this, you might find it useful. When it comes to sunrise, if you want to get the absolute best colours, you're going to have to be there at least 45 minutes before the sun pops up. That's when you get those lovely rich crimson and purple hues. It's almost dark when you get out, but that short period of 45 minutes before the sun pops up will go by real quick. So you've got to get out early. I think I've just timed it about right. I'll look at this business. So I've just got a 3-minute hike over to that sea stack with the arch, and then I'm going to frame up a comp that takes advantage of, look at all this reflection that you've got on the mud flats. So something that'll hopefully take advantage of that. But I'm quite hopeful that this is going to be a fantastic sunrise. So I'm hoping that that colour that you see over there reaches all the way across the sky, and if it does, then I have some really good comps shooting in that direction. But shooting in this direction, it's, well, the shape of the stack, if you look at it here, you can see that hole. But as I move over this direction, the hole closes up and it just becomes a mound. So hopefully something happens in that side of the sky. I think it will. So I'm just going to frame up some test shots and be ready just in case it does. Oh, I think it's starting to happen. You can see that's that beautiful crimson purpley light I was telling you about. You can see it's starting to creep slightly over in the direction of the sea stack. So you can see this beautiful pano that I've framed. Let me just flip this round. You know me, I cannot resist that Hasselblad XPan. I just love how simple this composition is. And what I've got is this, I'm not going to call it a leading line, but it's just this kind of slight reflexion that you can see here, which I like the shape of it. I like how it trails off into the distance towards the sea and towards the nice light as well. And of course we've got the stack being reflected ever so slightly there. But what I've done with this composition, I've put the stack off to one side. Now that could change depending on what the light does. So if it turns out that the light gets better over there, then I might put that in the center of the frame. So I'm prepared to adjust. But I think this is going to work. And on the Sony over here, I've got a time lapse going. So, you know, I might get a single frame out of that, or the time lapse itself might look really good. So yeah, let's just sit and wait for the magic to happen. It might not be a bust after all. This light is really, oh, it's frustrating me. It kind of looks like it's going to blush, and then it just doesn't quite happen. I really hope it's not going to be one of those almost mornings. Because look at the potential, look at that. It could just explode. Go on. Explode. Now the reason why I really want to get a good shot of this sea stack is because that arch that you can see there is not going to last much longer. You see the beam that goes across the top? These things out here have a habit of collapsing, and they're so beautiful. It looks like coastal Moab to me. It's like being in Utah. But because the weather is so brutal here, the tides, all that, they don't last long. So I think that's probably got a year or two at the most before it collapses. And it'll still look pretty cool, you know, it'll be like two fingers just sticking up. But it's not going to be as cool as an arch like that. It's fantastic, is that? So whether I get a sunrise shot, a sunset shot, Milky Way, Moonscape, whatever, I just want to get a killer shot of this while it's still here. Anyway, that light is, oh, it's frustrating. It's teasing me. It's almost, but not quite. Anyway, I'll just stick around. We've got about 20 minutes now until the sun actually pops up over the horizon, and then all of the best colours will be gone. But then we should get some nice side light on the stack. So you lose something, but you gain something. If you look at that now, it's just starting to creep round. Oh, it's happening. I think we might be in bee's nest.
And as if by some Yorkshire incantation, it happened. I got the light and I got the shot, but there was even more to come.
All right, so after the sunrise, I came over to the first sea stack just to see if I could capture some of that post-sunrise light. And I did manage to get a fairly decent shot, but I couldn't film it because I was rushing around like a headless chicken. But I think I quite liked it. So here is that shot.
Okay, let me show you how I got these gorgeous light rays. And really what I'm showing you here is not so much the sun rays tool of Luminar Neo, which if I switch off, you can see that's how the image began. And that's how it ended up. It's not really the sun rays tool that I want to show you, it's more the masking tools, because if I look under masking here, Luminar has just added this amazing new object select AI, and that's really what I'm showing you here. But what I'll do is just reset this sun rays tool. Alright, the first thing that I want to do is hit this button here, this place sun center, and I click on this white circle and drag it to where I think the sun would be. So I'm going to say round about there. You won't see anything until I hit this amount slider. So I'm just going to crank this to kind of a ridiculous position, and we'll play with a couple more of these sliders. What I'm talking about right now isn't so much about the sun rays tool as it is about the object selection. So we'll play with number of sun rays. Yeah, it's a bit over the top, and you can see some of the sun rays are showing up down here, and that's what I want to fix. So the way that I do that to make it look like the sun rays are coming from behind the stack is I go to masking and I use object select AI. It'll analyze the image. Now I want to click on subtract, and when I move my mouse over an object like the sea stack, you'll see this minus icon, and you can see that it's darker because it's basically deselecting part of that mask. So I'm going to click on that to take that out of the mask, as well as that and that. And now if I go back to adjustments and we see what we've done, we can see that those light rays have completely disappeared. And even if I go back and pull this number of sun rays down to about, let's say 50, you can see that it really does look like it's coming from behind the sea stack. And all I really need to do now to make this a little bit more realistic is bring up the sun warmth and the ray warmth, and then turn down the amount to something a little bit more realistic. And now it's starting to look like a much more natural scene. If we switch that off and then on, it's actually quite believable. Now look at this area here, right? If I switch this off and then back on, you can see that the light has changed in the foreground there. So I need to refine that mask a little bit. So I'm going to go back to masking, and instead of object select, I'm just going to go to click here and use brush. I then hit erase, bring my brush into the image, and as soon as I click, you'll start to see where that mask begins and ends. So I'm just going to brush out all of this area here, just to make sure that none of those wild sun rays make it into any part of this foreground. And that should have fixed that. Look at that, perfect. So now if I switch off my sun rays, it really does look like it's just coming from behind that sea stack. So that is the brilliant new Object Select AI tool in Luminar Neo. If you're interested in getting a copy, there's a link in the description, and you can get 10% off using the discount code Fototripper10.
Did you get much sleep, love?
A fair bit, yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
A good 10 hours?
About 8, probably.
Oh, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
So at least you've got that giant bathrobe.
It's a good thing I packed it on the last second.
Yeah. It's basically a duvet.
Came in handy.
Well, I think we should probably get home because all of that wonderful meat that we bought yesterday is in the fridge, and because we got gas problems, I don't mean like flatulence, I mean, you know, with the propane, the fridge ain't running, so we should probably just get on the road and go home. Well, I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, please give it the old thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, don't forget to tickle my bell, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye. Bye.